I mean, there were houses, there were universities, there were mosques, there were churches, there were cafes on the beach, there were roads, there were trees where, near which I played marbles with some of my friends who are now killed. So, so these places existed. Some people were killed by Israel, but still these places remain. So when I would grow up, as a father, I would take my children to the kindergarten in the refugee camp. I would take them and show them the mulberry tree about which I wrote in one of the poems. To show them. So the poem was about some kind of absence, some level of absence, but still the world where the poem took place is still existed. But now we are living in a time in a moment when the poem, the subjects of the poem, and the place where the poem is taking place are disappeared.
Hello. Welcome. So glad you could come. I'm Scott Steedman. I'm a writer and editor and a senior lecturer here in the publishing department at SFU. On behalf of the publishing department, I'd like to welcome you to the 2025 Jim Douglas Lecture, Voices from Under the Rubble. We are honored to have Palestinian poet, journalist, and activist Mosab Abu Toha as our guest today. Thank you all for being here, in person and online. This is being live streamed on our YouTube channel as well, and you'll be able to watch it as a recording later. We're very fortunate to be able to gather and live on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish peoples who have lived here from time immemorial, and who continue to be the stewards of these lands and waters. We are guests here and take reconciliation very seriously in all we do at the publishing department here. A special welcome to publishing students at SFU who are here, especially the new cohort of Masters of Publishing students. Great to have you here tonight and for the next few months. Scratch, years. Little bit of housekeeping, the usual. Please silence your phones. No blues riffs in the middle of things. Like I said, this event is being live streamed on YouTube. There are 2 cameras, and I was supposed to point out where they are, but I'm not even sure. Back there and where those people are pointing. You will not be in the shot. It'll just be showing up here, but if you speak, we will hear you, or you'll be heard online. The lecture itself will take about 30 minutes. We will then have a Q&A. People were going around handing out index cards, so if you'd like to ask a question, you could write it on a card. There's a goldfish bowl. It's actually my children's goldfish bowl. The goldfish died years ago. And Stephen is going to look at the questions and ask some of them of Mosab when we get to that part of the evening. Today's lecture honors James Jardine Douglas, a Scottish-Canadian entrepreneur best known as Jim, and as the Douglas in Douglas and McIntyre. Jim is one of the most influential and inspirational figures in BC publishing. Several publishing firms here, including D&M, where I once worked, Raincoast Books, I worked there too actually, and Ampersand, owe their very existence to Jim. He worked with and encouraged many, many publishing people over decades, and dedicated a lot of time, wisdom, and indeed money to establishing the publishing program right here at SFU. So today's lecture honors that legacy. Thanks, Jim. Thanks also to Mohamed El Eek, a skilled oud player who has been playing for a while during the reception part. He's captivated audiences in Syria and Lebanon with his mastery of Arabic music styles and techniques. Mohamed is a recent arrival to Canada from Syria, and we're lucky to have him here. Mohamed is now going to play a short piece for us to get us in the mood for our main event. Thanks very much, Mahada. That was wonderful. We're very sorry that Mosab Abu Toha can't be here in person today. That was the original plan. We invited him, but unfortunately with the new government in Washington, he didn't feel safe traveling to Canada for the crime of writing poetry. We can only hope that one day this madness will end and we will be able to visit and meet and drink tea and talk in the normal way. For now, he's in Syracuse, New York, and Zoom will have to do. As publishers, we traffic in stories. In the West, only one side of the Palestine story has been told for the last 77 years. In that story, the Palestinians either don't exist or only feature as terrorists. The Nakba, the original sin, the brutal expulsion of 750,000 Palestinians from their homes in 1948, rarely gets more than a brief mention, and quite often no mention at all. Since the latest onslaught on Gaza began almost 2 years ago, that one-sided fiction has slowly collapsed. No independent journalists are allowed into Gaza, but finally, at long last, we are hearing brave voices from Palestine and even braver voices from inside Gaza, voices from under the rubble. Which is why we are so happy to have Mosab talking to us tonight. As he said to Jon Stewart the other day, "My children are the story. The story should be the one who is talking. At which point, I'm going to stop and hand this over to Stephen Collis, a poet, activist, and chair of the English department here at SFU, to introduce Mosab properly.
Thanks, Scott. Good evening and welcome, everyone. I'm so glad to see so many of you here. My own little bit of housekeeping. Maybe someone can grab me that fishbowl at some point. Bring it this way in the next 10 minutes or so. Yeah, it's a real pleasure and a real honor to be here. And I'm really looking forward to Mosab's presentation. Writing in the New Yorker in May of this year, Mosab Abu Toha notes that, quote, often in the past 19 months, a situation that could hardly get any worse has gotten worse, end quote. We are witness today to the most unfathomable atrocity of our times, something that defies description and can only madden the mind. How to even begin? Thousands murdered, cities reduced to rubble, journalists systematically assassinated, hospitals and so-called safe spaces bombed repeatedly, aid withheld, escape almost impossible, all easily watchable on whatever digital platform. Abu Toha writes again in the New Yorker, quote, I'm compelled to share these injustices because they need to stop, end quote. So I will follow suit. But I do so with disgust, as I note the report just last week of the Trump administration's post-war plan for Gaza, which calls for the voluntary relocation of all of Gaza's Palestinian population, to make way for a Riviera of the Middle East, as some have called it, a tourism and high-tech hub with AI-powered smart cities. A plan with the unironic title of Great Trust, the Gaza Reconstruction, Economic Acceleration and Transformation Trust. This may be laughable, but it's no laughing matter. This is what evil looks like, and we shouldn't look away. What the irreconcilable nature of this calls for, what the unspeakable and indescribable fact of what is happening day by day in Gaza demands, is an immediate end to the war and oppression, the immediate free flow of aid, and above all, a future built by free Palestinians for a free Palestine. But almost amazingly, maybe sometimes it also calls for poetry. Despite its small footprint and even smaller platform, poetry has always been the art of saying the unsayable, of demanding the impossible, the art by which, when one can't go on with words, one goes on with words. And this, amongst other things, is why Mosab Abu Toha matters. He reminds us how essential poetry can be when what is happening around us can barely be named, barely breathed into words. Mosab Abu Toha is a Palestinian poet and essayist from Gaza. His first collection of poetry, Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear, both his books are back there and available tonight. Please do pick up copies. His first book was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award and won a Palestinian Books Award, an American Book Award, and the Derek Walcott Prize for Poetry. The widely praised Forest of Noise, I was supposed to have it in my hand to hold up and show you, it's right there on the desk where I was sitting, was published in 2024. And in 2025, Abu Toha was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for his New Yorker essays on the war in Gaza. We just found out today that Forest of Noise was just awarded the Brooklyn Public Library Books Prize for nonfiction. I love it that a book of poetry is winning more for nonfiction. I suppose that's what truth to power looks like. In 2017, Abu Toha founded the Edward Said Library, the first English language library in Gaza, which sadly was destroyed in November 2023. In that same month, Abu Toha was kidnapped by the IDF and subsequently released, while he tried to get his young family out of Gaza. Forest of Noise contains poems written before October 2023, from the midst of the chaos and during the war's painfully long unfolding. These are poems that are here to tell us what seems impossible to tell. They are poems that are both tender and unflinching, despairing and yet visionary, small and yet filled with vast emotion, focused at once on the particular and the timeless, woven through with striking images from a land of almost constant airstrikes. Ezra Pound once wrote that poetry is news that stays news, and Abu Toha poems bring us the essential shocking news from the ground in Gaza. But more than this, Mosab Abu Toha is here to remind us of the power of poetry to imagine the impossible and deliver us new possibilities. Please welcome Mosab Abu Toha.
Thank you so much, everyone. Can I just get a sign that you can hear me?
Yep, we can hear you great.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to SFU for hosting this, for having me. Thank you, Stephen, for the powerful words. Thank you, Scott, for working on this, making sure this happens despite the distance between Syracuse and where you are in Vancouver. I must warn you, just like Stephen did, that some of these poems in the book were written before October 7th, 2023. And if you were reading the poems as a whole, you will never be able to distinguish what was written before October 2023 or what was written after. Because for me, as a poet, as a survivor, as a father, as a refugee, this has been the situation for us since before I was born. I'm going to start by reading part of a poem from Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear before I read poems from Forest of Noise. The first poem in Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear is called Palestine AZ. And that book, when you read it, you should know that it was published in 2022. Some poems were written in 2018, 2019, 2020. Some poems in 2021, when Israel attacked Gaza for 11 days. And that was the first Israeli assault on Gaza for me as a father of 3 very young children. Palestine AZ. A. An apple that fell from the table on a dark evening when man-made lightning flashed through the kitchen, the streets, and the sky, rattling the cupboards and breaking the dishes. Am is that linking verb that follows I in the present tense when I am no longer present, when I am shattered. B. A book that doesn't mention my language or my country and has maps of every place except for my birthplace, as if I were an illegitimate child on Mother Earth. Borders are those invented lines drawn with ash on maps and sewn into the ground by bullets. C. Gaza is a city where tourists visit to take photos next to destroyed buildings or graveyards. A country that exists only in my mind. Its flag has no room to fly freely, but there is a space on the coffins of my countrymen. D. Dar means house. My grandparents left their house behind in 1948 near Jaffa Beach. A tree my father told me about stood in the front yard. Dreams of children and their parents of listening to songs or watching plays at the Mishal Cultural Center. Israel destroyed it in August 2018. I hate August, but the plays are still performed in Gaza. Gaza is the stage. And here I'll have to just pause for a second. I mean, and that poem from 2022, I said, but the plays are still performed in Gaza. Gaza is the stage. And what a stage it is right now. A stage that is a heap of rubble under which corpses of my loved ones remained for months and years. It is a graveyard, a destroyed one, that the international media started to show on their screens after some aid planes were able to fly over Gaza. Okay. I was born in November. My mother told me she was walking on the beach with my father. It turned stormy and began to rain. My mother felt pain, and an hour later she gave birth to me. I love the rain and the sea, the last two things I heard before I came into this horrible world. Okay. I will read another poem from this collection, a poem that I wrote in May 2021. And when I wrote that poem, I mean, I was devastated by one story that happened just a few 100 meters away from where I was with my wife and our kids. In May 2021, Israel bombed a house, and in that house, an entire family was killed by Israel. A father, a mother, and their 4 children. The oldest was 10 years old. And the reason I say this is that because Israel, during the past 23 months, in the past 700 days, erased at least 1,000 entire families. 2 of them were the families of first cousins of mine. Shrapnel looking for laughter. The house has been bombed. Everyone is dead. The kids, the parents, the toys, the actors on TV, characters in novels, personas in poetry collections, the I, the he, and the she. No pronouns is left, not even for the kids when they learn parts of speech next year. Shrapnel flies in the dark, looks for the family's peals of laughter, hiding behind piles of disfigured walls and bleeding picture frames. The radio no longer speaks. Its batteries have burned. The antenna is broken. Even the broadcaster felt the pain when the radio was hit. Even we, hearing the bomb as it fell, threw ourselves to the ground, each of us counting the others around them. We were safe, but our hearts still ache. And whenever I return to this poem, I think about the we in this poem. We were safe because this we is missing a lot of people, the people who were safe in May 2021 after that airstrike, the many relatives of mine, the relatives of my wife, my father-in-law, who was killed on August 3rd this year, just last month. So none of them were safe. They were killed. They were obliterated by Israel. Not only them, but the cities and refugee camps where they were born and where they grew up. Now I'm gonna read some poems from Forest of Noise. So this one is a long poem called Gaza Notebook. 2021, 2023. I'm going to read some parts of it. And by the way, this school that I'm talking about is Al Fakhura School, which was targeted in an airstrike more than one time. The latest of which, maybe not the latest, but one of which was when I was still in Gaza. I went into that school after the airstrike. Israel killed about 50 people when they bombed 4 classrooms. I still have photos from after that airstrike. So I studied for my 7th, 8th, and 9th grades. And that's the same school where I taught for about a year after I graduated from the Islamic University of Gaza. And I also did my 5th and 6th grade. So because I was born in the refugee camp until the age of 8, then we moved to live in North Gaza near the Jabalia camp. So I did my 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grades in Al Fakhura school. At 5th grade, I visit the school library. On a wall by the door, a poster claims, "If you read books, you live more than one life." Now I'm 30. Now I'm 32, by the way. Now I'm 30, and whenever I look at faces around me, old or young, on each forehead I read, "If you live in Gaza, you die several times." No one at home. The doorknob, only dust touches it now. Pots grow parched. Frying pans miss the smell of olive oil. Clothes lines everywhere pine for soap scent. The flower pot, the window, the key, the language. Stones of house after explosion get amnesia. Some forget they were in a wall in a bedroom or a kitchen or a bathroom. Some in a ceiling. Some forget they sat behind photo frames for years. A few stones forget they were stones, those hit by the bombs. Something about the poems that break my heart is that many of the things I wrote about, whether in my first book or my new book, Forest of Noise, they do not exist anymore. The houses, the trees, the schools, some of the friends I wrote about, even if they were killed, when I wrote about them, their graves are gone because Israel bombed and razed cemeteries in North Gaza. So this breaks my heart every time I go back and read these poems. My dreams as a child. I still have dreams about a room filled with toys my mother always promised we could have if we were rich. I still have dreams about seeing the refugee camp from a window on a plane. I still have dreams about seeing the animals I learned about in 3rd grade: elephant, giraffe, kangaroo, and wolf. I still have dreams about running for miles and miles with no border blocking my feet, with no unexploded bombs scaring me off. I still have dreams about my favorite team playing soccer on the beach, me running, waiting for the ball to come my way and run away with it. I dream still about my grandfather, how much I wanted to pick oranges with him in Jaffa. But my grandfather died, Jaffa is occupied, and oranges no longer grow in his weeping groves. No art. And this, you could guess that it was written before October 2023 from the number in the poem. No art. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Elizabeth Bishop. You know everything will come to an end. The sugar, the tea, the dried sage, the water. Just go to the market and restock. Even your shadow will abandon you when there is no light. So just keep things that require only you. The book of poems that only you can decipher. The blank map of a country whose cities and villages only you can recognize. I've personally lost 3 friends to war, a city to darkness, and a language to fear. This was not easy to survive, but survival proved necessary to master. But of all things, losing the only photo of my grandfather under the rubble of my house was a real disaster. We are looking for Palestine. The sun rises and moves around. It sets to visit other places, and we are looking for Palestine. The birds wake up and look for food. They chirp on the blossoming trees laden with fruit, with peaches, apples, apricots, and oranges, and we are looking for Palestine. The sea waves lap against the shore. They glitter and dance with the fishers' boats, and we are looking for Palestine. People travel to relatives and friends. They book round-trip tickets, stuff their suitcases with gifts and books and clothes, and we are looking for Palestine. Sir, we have no airports and seaports, no trains or highways. We have no passable roads, sir. We do have crutches and wheelchairs, young men with one or no legs, no longer able to work, as if there was work. We travel to the West Bank or Egypt for surgery, even to set a broken leg. We need a permit to enter. We stuff our suitcases with pictures and memories. They feel heavy on the ground. We can't carry them, neither can the roads. They scar the surface of the earth. We get lost in the past, present, and future. When a child is born, we feel sad for him or her. A child is born here to suffer, sir. A mother feels the great pain in labor. A child cries after leaving her dark place. Palestine, our dark is not safe. In Palestine, children always cry. If we want to travel, we leave many times. In Gaza, we leave via either Erez or Rafah, a hard escape to make. So we search for the visa interview. Cairo, Istanbul, Amman, but not in Palestine. We don't have embassies, sir. The one in Jerusalem is farther than the Andromeda galaxy. Andromeda is 2.5 million light years away, but our years stay heavy and dark. It would take trillions of years. Sir, we are not welcome anywhere. Only cemeteries don't mind our bodies. We no longer look for Palestine. Our time is spent dying. Soon, Palestine will search for us, for our whispers, for our footsteps, our fading pictures fallen off blown up walls. And again, here, this one was written, I think, 2020, 2021. Only cemeteries do not mind our bodies. Even cemeteries are not safe places to die, to lie in anymore. My library. I wrote this poem after I returned to Gaza, after spending about a year and a half in the US between 2019 and 2021. And the first place I checked on was my library. So that's the poem. My library, which is now under the rubble. My books remain on the shelves as I left them last year, but all the words have died. I search for my favorite book, out of place. I find it lying lonely in a drawer next to the photo album and my old Nokia phone. The pen inside the book is still intact, but some ink drops have leaked. Some words breathe its ink. The pen like a ventilator for a dozen patients. Home, Jerusalem, the sea, Haifa, the rock, the oranges, the sand, the pigeon, Cairo, my mother, Beirut, books, the rock, the sea, the sea. I will read 3 more poems. This one is a long one because it has smaller poems, and each poem is a poem in itself. Each section is a poem in itself. But the important thing about this poem is that it was written during the ongoing genocide, during my 2 months in Gaza, and then after when I left for Egypt. And many of these poems, by the way, happened again and again and again. Under the rubble. She slept on her bed, never woke up again. Her bed has become her grave, a tomb beneath the ceiling of her room. The ceiling a cenotaph, no name, no year of birth, no year of death, no epitaph, only blood and a smashed picture frame in ruin next to her. In Jabalia camp, a mother collects her daughter's flesh in a piggy bank, hoping to buy her plot on a river in a faraway land. A group of mute people were talking sign. When a bomb fell, they fell silent. I have to pause here. So in this poem, I was talking about some of the mute people who were born deaf and mute. There were some, I mean, an intimate group of mute people in my city of Bethlehem. One of whom was my wife's uncle, Nasim Abu Toha. And I wrote about Nasim in one of my pieces in the New Yorker. Nasim was a father of 2 children, a husband. He was abducted from inside a school shelter in Bethlehem, the same school where my oldest 2 children went for their first and second grades. So my wife's uncle was sheltering in that school. But in December 2023, a few days after we left for Egypt, Nasim was abducted from inside the school, and he was taken to the Kamal Adwan hospital for interrogation. And then a few hours later, he was released. By the time he arrived at the gate of the school, he was shot by a sniper. So this poem is about him and about the other mute people who were killed, whether by sniper shots or by airstrikes. A group of mute people were talking sign. When a bomb fell, they fell silent. It rained again last night. The new plant looked for an umbrella in the garage. The bombing got intense, and our house looked for a shelter in the neighborhood. I leave the door to my room open so the words in my books, the titles and names of authors and publishers could flee when they hear the bombs. I became homeless once, but the rubble of my city covered the streets. This is a true story. They could not find a stretcher to carry your body. They put you on a wooden door they found under the rubble. Your neighbors, a moving wall. Not sure how many children with amputated legs I saw over the past 23 months. How many children, beheaded children, or children with scars and shrapnel wounds in their faces I saw. The scars on our children's faces will look for you. Our children's amputated legs will run after you. And this is also something that continued to happen and again. Just a few days ago, I think it was 3 or 4 days ago, Israel bombed a tent where there was an oven which people use to bake bread. You know, it's a community thing. Someone has an oven. Some people would get some firewood or some cardboard, to bake together. So one of the airstrikes targeted that oven. But this poem is about parents who left their houses to get some bread from a bakery. That was during the first few days of the genocide. But people are targeted, whether they are getting bread, whether they are baking bread, whether they are going to so-called GHF sites to get aid, especially flour. He left the house to buy some bread for his kids. News of his death made it home, but not the bread. No bread. Death sits to eat whoever remains of the kids. No need for a table. No need for bread. A father wakes up at night, sees the random colors on the walls drawn by his 4-year-old daughter. The colors are about 4 feet high. Next year, they would be 5. But the painter has died in an airstrike. There are no colors anymore. There are no walls. I changed the order of my books on the shelves. 2 days later, the war broke out. The war broke out. Beware of changing the order of your books. I will skip. When we die, our souls leave our bodies, take with them everything they loved in our bedrooms, the perfume bottles, the makeup, the necklaces, and the pens. In Gaza, our bodies and rooms get crushed. Nothing remains for the soul. Even our souls, they get stuck under the rubble for weeks. I will end with this poem, which I wrote about the May 2021 attacks. And May the May 2nd was 2021 was my youngest son's first birthday, and Israel attacked Gaza on May 11th. So that was just a few days after my son celebrated his first birthday, and you will see that in the poem when I refer to the cake. What a Gazan should do during an Israeli airstrike: turn off the lights in every room, sit in the inner hallway of the house, away from the windows, stay away from the stove, stop thinking about making black tea, have a bottle of water nearby big enough to cool down children's fear, get a child's kindergarten backpack and stuff, tiny toys and whatever amount of money there is, and the ID cards and photos of late grandparents, aunts or uncles, and the grandparents' wedding invitation that's been kept for a long time. And if you are a farmer, and this is now heartbreaking for me because the farmer here is my wife's father, my father-in-law, who was killed. He was a strawberry farmer, so I was talking about him here. And if you're a farmer, you should put some strawberry seeds in one pocket and some soil from the balcony flower pot in the other, and hold on tight to attempt to whatever number there was on the cake from the last birthday. I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mosab. Is this on? You can hear me out there? Oh, good. You can't tell up here. Thank you, Shamina. That's great. Mosab, that was really powerful, and thank you so much. I know it's not easy reading these poems, but I really appreciate, and we all do, that you were here tonight to do that with us. Thank you so much. I'm going to start at the front of your book, before the book even really begins, with your epigraph. Just such a powerful line you've taken from Audre Lorde. Poetry is not a luxury. I agree with you. I don't think it is. But I'm very curious why for you poetry isn't a luxury, even in the midst of what is happening in Gaza. And as you've been finding your path, starting a new life, writing these poems, how is poetry still not a luxury for you?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephen. This is, I think, one of the most powerful quotes by a poet. My life as a poet who was born in Gaza under occupation and under siege gives me more dimensions to that quote. Poetry is not a luxury because poets do not write from an area of comfort. Poets are not writing usually about their love life. I don't know about most of the poets in this world, but poetry for me, the poetry that I know and the poetry that I write is about my life as a survivor, but also a victim, not only a survivor, because I was and I'm still a victim of the Israeli occupation and the Israeli ongoing genocide. So writing about these things is not easy. To be a witness, to be a victim, and to still also run away from all these nightmares, even while as they are happening. So writing about these things is not a luxury. This is one thing. The other thing is reading poetry, reading the poems that I wrote is not a luxury, because I am revisiting these traumatic experiences that not only did I live, but also continue to witness as my family in Gaza, my relatives, my wife's family, my students, my neighbors, and not only people, but also the places that I wrote about. And I think I talked about that while I was reading. Many of these places were not only destroyed, they were obliterated. So Israel, if you look at the satellite images, or if you look at the aerial photos, you don't recognize anything. You cannot recognize a school from a pharmacy, from a kindergarten, from a mosque, from a church, from a coffee shop. You don't distinguish or make your way through a street in Gaza. So Israel erased not only people, not only entire families, but also a city, not only a city, even a refugee camp. The place that should have been a temporary place for refugees who were expelled, as you mentioned, or maybe it was Scott, 750,000 Palestinians were expelled in 1948. So these were turned refugees. And the tragic thing is that these people continue to be refugees. Their sons are refugees. Their daughters are refugees. They have grandchildren who are refugees. They have great-grandchildren who are refugees. So not only is Israel massacring these people, but the whole world is abandoning them. The whole world has done nothing to bring justice to these people. So writing about these things, about my own life, is not a luxury, because this is a traumatic experience. This is something that I experienced firsthand. In one of the poems from the first collection, I wrote about being wounded in an airstrike at the age of 16 in January 2009, during which 7 people were killed. So writing about these things is not easy. And reading these things, not only reading these things alone, but reading them as they happen again and again and again, is a traumatizing experience for me as a poet, but also as a human being who is losing many things every day.
Yeah, I'll thank you for that generous answer, and I'll thank you again for how brave you are, as you were just saying, to revisit these traumatic memories by reading your poetry. And maybe this is a related question. I'm going to our first fishbowl question, which says, I've heard Gazans interviewed saying, the world does not care about us, much as you were just saying, Mosab. How can we, non-Palestinians, people who aren't from Gaza, how can we show Gazans we do care? How can this message reach them?
I mean, it's not that people in Gaza are saying this. This is what we are seeing. I mean, for me as a Gazan, I have family members there. I have friends. I have colleagues. So it's not that they are saying this. This is what we are seeing. Now, give me one example of an official, whether it's an Arab official or a Western official or an African official or an alien official who visited Gaza in the past 23 months. Give me the name of one official who visited Gaza. 0. But how many officials did visit Israel after October 7th and even before October 7th? How many presidents, prime ministers, ministers of foreign affairs, ministers? I mean, these people volunteered to visit Israel to show their support and sympathy. I mean, rightly so on October 7th. I would expect everyone to visit Israel, but why hasn't anyone visited Gaza for an hour? Why hasn't anyone ever visited Gaza before October 2023? The conditions that we were subjected to are inhumane. A siege since 2007, an occupation since 1948. No airport in Gaza, no seaport in Gaza. No, we cannot sail in our sea as far as 7 nautical miles. So So if the world does really care about us, we should see them visiting Gaza to protect the civilian population in Gaza. The 70% of the Gazan people are refugees and their descendants. 50% of the population are children. Why haven't we seen any official from your country, from America, from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, from South America? Why haven't we seen any official visiting Gaza? So that's, I mean, really, that would be a sign. I know that there are some people who have been trying, and these are very brave people, who have taken the initiative of sailing in the sea to try and visit Gaza. I mean, we know that Israel has the impunity to drag these boats and ships, to Israel, even though these people were sailing in the sea, not in Israel. They were sailing in the sea, which is leading to Gaza. So we see these attempts. I think people have to apply more pressure on their governments, not only to end the genocide, not only to break the siege, but also to end the occupation. This is an illegal and unjust occupation that people in Palestine, not only in Gaza, have been subjected to. Why has it been 77 years and we haven't seen a single country stepping in to help the Palestinian people or protect them from the Israeli attacks, whether it's attacks by the Israeli forces or the Israeli settlers? Because what you are seeing in the West Bank, it's not only Israeli forces, Israeli soldiers who are attacking Palestinians in their villages, burning their villages. Today, we saw a video from a village in the West Bank in Ramallah called Mukhmas. Israeli settlers, 19 years old, 20 years old, 21, I don't know, just, invading a house. People are sleeping. I think it was maybe 12 or 1 a.m. People were just sleeping in their homes. And these settlers invaded their houses, sat in the courtyard, and I think started smoking or something. So these people, are, invading the houses of people who are living, in their own villages where they have been living for hundreds and thousands of years. So if someone would defend themselves against these settlers attacks by the settlers, you will see the Israeli forces coming to shoot and kill these Palestinians. But what happens when a Palestinian is being attacked? No one is stepping in to help them. And this is not new. So if the world really did care, they should make sure that the Palestinian people, the people who are living under occupation, are protected. They should be protected.
You're here. Thank you.
And by the way, there is something that I don't know if many people know, which is part of the Oslo Accords in 1993. I mean, as a Palestinian, I was shocked to know that it was part of the Oslo Accords that the Palestinian people cannot have an army to protect themselves. I mean, so the Palestinian people are an occupied population, and at the same time, they signed a peace agreement with Israel that they cannot have an army. But okay, now we are living under occupation. If someone like an Israeli soldier or an Israeli settler attacks me, so who is going to protect me as a Palestinian who is living under occupation? Who is supposed to be protecting me? But the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, signed a peace treaty in which stipulates that the Palestinian cannot have an army. So the question is, from 1993, who is supposed to be protecting the Palestinians who are living under occupation?
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna probably ask you two more questions. I think that's probably about what we have time for. This is a little more literary and about poetry again, and we'll come back around after that. But I wanted to ask you about poetry and absence. Your work is filled with potent absences. Some of the poems we've just heard. The poet's shadow left behind, bereft of a body, lonely and hid in the dark of night. Or the everyday objects that miss their former human uses, frying pans that miss the smell of olive oil, or the amnesiac stones of the house after explosion. How does poetry relate to absence for you? I'm also thinking about the harvest you refer to in the poem, My Grandfather's Well, the seeds of which, considering the ravaged land, only sprout on this page, you say, or how the final lines of the final poem of Forrest declare, this is not a poem, this is a grave. The poem is doing more than standing in for the absent, isn't it? Is it, and would you consider it, a refuge, a last hope, even a seed of return for what is now absent?
Yeah, this is a great question. Thank you. So, I mean, when I wrote these poems, much of Gaza still existed. I mean, there were houses, there were universities, there were mosques, there were churches, there were cafes on the beach, there were roads, there were trees where, near which I played marbles with some of my friends who are now killed. So these places existed. Some people were killed by Israel, but still these places remain. So when I would grow up, as a father, I would take my children to the kindergarten in the refugee camp. I would take them and show them the mulberry tree about which I wrote in one of the poems. To show them. So the poem was about some kind of absence, some level of absence, but still the world where the poem took place still existed. But now we are living in a time, in a moment when the poem, the subjects of the poem and the place where the poem is taking place are disappeared, right? So the poem functions as a safe place for these things, the place and the people in the poem. And it's not only that the poem is a safe place for these objects and these subjects, which are the human beings, but also the feelings that I have as a human being when I talk about these people, talk about these places. So this kind of absence is more tragic than I ever thought. I mean, even if this genocide comes to an end, we will never be able to rebuild Gaza the way it was, the way we wanted it to be. I mean, for me, one of the most tragic absences is the absence of the refugee camp. And here I talk about the Jabali refugee camp, where my mother and her siblings were born, where also my maternal grandparents were born. My great grandparents on my mother's side were born in Jaffa, and they were expelled from Jaffa. So my maternal grandparents were born in the refugee camp, right? So, I mean, just imagine that these Palestinians who were expelled from their houses, who lived in a refugee camp, there are 8 refugee camps in the Gaza Strip. Israel destroyed 3 of them, one of which was the Jabali refugee camp. Just imagine that these people, moved to Gaza, were expelled from their houses and moved to live in Gaza in a refugee camp for 77 years. And now this refugee camp is destroyed. So there are two forms of absences: the absence of the original home city, which is Jaffa in this case, and then the absence of the refugee camp. And then these people who were expelled from the refugee camp, just imagine, I mean, I'm shivering now, I mean, just imagine these people were expelled from the refugee camp. I mean, can you just imagine this? People expelled from the refugee camp, and not only that, this, people are longing to return to the refugee camp. They are not now longing to return to Jaffa, to Haifa, to Safad, to Tabariya, to Jerusalem, to Akka, to Al-Majdal. They are not thinking about that right now. They are thinking about returning to the refugee camp, as if the refugee camp is home for them. This is tragic. This is very, very tragic for us as Palestinians. And I can't understand why no one in the world understands this pain that we have. And this is the fault of the whole world. For 77 years, these Palestinians have been abandoned. No one has worked seriously to help them regain their rights. These rights, I mean, these rights are not political. When we say right of return, it's not political. It's a basic right. Someone was expelled from his home. There was a war. There was an Nakba. Okay, things settled down. They have the right to return. This is my house. So when Israel took my grandparents' house, I wouldn't only call this an occupation. This is theft. They stole my grandparents' house. They stole the land. They stole their belongings, because my grandparents, when they left their house or they left their trees with the oranges on the tree, they were hoping to return a few days later, a few weeks later. They never returned, and we don't know what happened to this house. So this is a human right. It's not a political right. It's not like someone wants to build a state. This is not about building a state. This is about a basic, simple, logical human right. I want to go back to my house, and you have to, make up for all the losses that have been incurred on us as Palestinians. It's not only about ending the genocide for me. This is a basic demand, but also ending the occupation and holding Israel for holding it accountable for its war crimes against us for over 77 years.
Thank you, Mosab. I think we have time for one more question, so I'm going to go back to the fishbowl. So this question reads, and I think it's a good way to conclude, really. What word in your language can you share with us that depicts or expresses the grief and resistance of the Palestinian people? Is there a word in Arabic that you can think of that just like this captures some of what you feel most deeply about this?
Word in Arabic. Okay. خذ the land, I would say. خذ the land, which is abandonment. Yeah, the Palestinians have been abandoned for 77, over, not only 70, because the Palestinian tragedy did not start in 1948. It even started way before 1917, when during the Balfour Declaration. So this is khudlan, this is abandonment, and even worse than that. It's not only abandonment. The whole world has been supporting Israel. I mean, I'm talking about governments mainly, supporting Israel, supplying it with weapons, caring about its security, even though it has every advanced military weapons in the world. So they have been, again and again and again, talking about Israel's security, but no one has ever expressed their concern for the safety and security of the Palestinian people. I mean, challenge me, give me one video where one Western leader said, we have to make sure that the Palestinian people live in safety and security. They have the right to live in safety and security. Give me one example. And if you give me one example, please give me another example of someone working on that. Give me one example where some powerful country taking steps to ensure that these Palestinians are living safely and securely on their own land. So we have been abandoned, not only politically, not only in 1948, not only in 1917, but also as the genocide unfolds in front of our eyes. I mean, we are watching this. We are not told about what's happening. It's not like 1940, 1950. It's something that is live streamed. People are telling you, hi, Scott, hi, Steve. This is a journalist who is burning in his tent. This is a child who was beheaded just a few seconds ago. Okay? These are Israeli, because the ones who are documenting the genocide, I mean, very strangely, is not only the Palestinian people, but also the Israeli soldiers. Every day, you go to social media, you see Israeli soldiers posting videos of them blowing up, pressing the buttons like this. Achat, shtaim, shalosh, 1, 2, 3, whoop, and they bomb the school, the house, the mosque, the kindergarten. They document that. They tell you, see, we can do that, and it's us. It's us. It's not someone hiding there and blowing themselves off. No, we just bomb. We bomb the house. We bomb the school. We bomb the hospital. So they are documenting that. So, yeah, we have been abandoned. Yani, it's not 1948 that we are sending letters to countries and it's taking months for the mail to arrive to reach them. No, it's live stream. People are showing you. This is happening right now. Can you help us? No. For 700 days, people have been live streaming their genocide. And the genocide is on each one of us's phones and laptops and TV screens. If your media if your TV channel is showing anything that's happening, they are showing you this is happening right now. You are not doing anything to stop that, and you are not doing anything to stop anything from happening again. So this is the point. This is the abandonment.
Mosab. What's that? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Mosab, thank you so much. That was stirring, outraging in the best possible way, and really moving. I wonder if you would want to read one last poem for us to conclude the evening. That would be really lovely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving me this chance to close with a poem. Okay, this poem is يعني, I don't know what to say. This is a very, very real poem. Not only is it real, but also it is something that happened to thousands and thousands of human beings in Gaza, of people who were killed in their houses, whose bodies remained under rubble for weeks and months and now years. I have a friend of mine, Ismail Abu Toha, who was sheltering in a house in Nusayrat, southern Gaza. That's one of the cities early during the genocide that Israel told people to go south. So my friend left North Gaza, went to southern Gaza, and Nusayrat refugee camp. And late November, a few days after I was released from the Israeli detention or abduction place, my friend Ismail was killed in an airstrike along with his father, his mother. His wife survived, but their two children were killed, 1 and 3 years old. 3 other sisters were killed, and 2 sisters survived. So that was November 2023. I'm talking to you now. It is September 2025. So 22 months from the time Ismail was killed. And still the body of Ismail, the body of his father, and the body of his 16-year-old sister, Ikram, are under the rubble until today. So this poem is called Right or Left. Under the rubble, her body has remained for days and days. When the war ends, we try to remove the rubble, stone after stone. We only find one small bone from her body. It is a bone from her arm. Right or left, it does not matter as long as we cannot find the henna from her neighbor's wedding on her skin, or the ink from a school pen on a little index finger. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you
for coming
so
in.
much.
Please, what can I say? Yeah. Please continue to speak out, spread the word, amplify the voices of poets, writers, journalists in Gaza. This is what you can do. You are, unfortunately, 5,000 or 6,000 miles away from Gaza, but the weapons that your country and other countries are supplying Israel with are not late to arrive to kill children and entire families in Gaza. But this is what you can do. Speak out, share stories, and never stop speaking about Palestine.
Thank you, Mosab.
Thank you so much, Stephen and Scott.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming out.
Thanks so much, obviously, to Mosab, to Stephen. Thanks especially to Shamina Senaratna, who organized pretty much this whole thing and is working around the clock for the last couple of weeks dealing with all the details. Thanks, Shamina, you were amazing. Is there a thank you slide up there? Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to read that stuff out. I haven't got my glasses on. To my colleagues in SFU Publishing, Director Hannah McGregor, the ever-spirited John Maxwell, Juan Pablo Alperin for tech support. We actually needed it because Mosab couldn't find the Zoom link, and then I couldn't find the Zoom link, and Juan stepped in. So, Leanne Johnson on the reception, Suzanne Norman, Trevor Batty putting up posters on Granville Island. We couldn't have done it without you. Mauve Paget, who did the playlist. To our supporters for this event, they're listed up there. Thank you so much. Thai Bay Catering. And buy a book. The books are amazing. I was rereading it today, The Forest of Noise. There's some poems there that just really pierce you. It was really interesting to me that he won that award for nonfiction. Stephen and I were talking about that, and Stephen was saying, this is the truth. These poems really tell it to you straight. And for that, Mosab's really amazing artist. That's it. Thanks very much. Mingle and hang around for a little bit.